Kate Middleton adjusted her earrings one final time before stepping into the grand ballroom of Buckingham Palace. The annual charity gala was in full swing, with hundreds of distinguished guests mingling beneath the crystal chandeliers. As the Princess of Wales, these events had become second nature to her. But tonight felt different somehow. She moved gracefully through the crowd, offering warm smiles and engaging in polite conversation with diplomats, celebrities, and philanthropists. Her navy blue gown swept elegantly across the marble floor as she made her way toward the main reception area where the senior royals were expected to gather. "Kate, darling, you look absolutely stunning," came a familiar voice from behind. Kate turned to see Camilla approaching, resplendent in a deep emerald dress that complemented her blonde hair perfectly. The queen consort's smile was radiant, but Kate had learned to read the subtle signs that others missed. "Thank you, Camilla. You look wonderful yourself," Kate replied diplomatically. Over the years, she had developed an intricate understanding of royal protocol and the delicate balance of family relationships within the monarchy. Camilla leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "I do hope you'll join me for tea tomorrow afternoon. There are some matters regarding the upcoming state visit that we need to discuss privately." Kate nodded politely, though something in Camilla's tone made her slightly uneasy. "Of course, I'd be happy to." As Camilla glided away to greet other guests, Kate noticed Detective Inspector Sarah Morrison standing discreetly near one of the marble columns. Sarah had been assigned to the Royal Protection Detail 3 years ago and had quickly become one of Kate's most trusted security officers. What made Sarah particularly valuable wasn't just her exceptional training or quick reflexes, but her remarkable ability to observe and remember details that others overlooked. Sarah caught Kate's eye and gave an almost imperceptible nod. It was a subtle signal they had developed over time, indicating that Sarah had noticed something worth discussing later. Kate continued with her royal duties, but she found herself increasingly aware of Camilla's movements throughout the evening. During dinner, Kate was seated at the head table between a visiting ambassador and a prominent charity director. From her vantage point, she could see most of the ballroom and noticed that Camilla seemed to be having intense, private conversations with several guests. Each interaction appeared carefully orchestrated, with Camilla pulling individuals aside to secluded corners of the room. The most intriguing moment came when Kate observed Camilla speaking with Lord Pemberton, a wealthy businessman known for his extensive international connections. Their conversation lasted nearly 15 minutes, far longer than typical social pleasantries would warrant. Lord Pemberton appeared to be taking notes in a small leather journal, nodding seriously at whatever Camilla was telling him. When the evening's formal program began, Kate delivered a heartfelt speech about the importance of supporting children's education initiatives. The audience responded with enthusiastic applause, but she noticed that Camilla's attention seemed focused elsewhere. The queen consort was scanning the room methodically, as if looking for someone specific. After the speeches concluded, guests began to disperse into smaller groups for more intimate conversations. Kate was approached by several foundation representatives eager to discuss potential collaborations when she noticed Camilla heading toward a side entrance that led to the private royal apartments. What caught Kate's attention wasn't just Camilla's departure from the main event, but the fact that she was accompanied by a woman Kate didn't recognize. The stranger was elegantly dressed but carried herself with the purposeful stride of someone conducting business rather than attending a social gathering. Sarah materialized beside Kate with the practiced invisibility of a skilled protection officer. "Your Royal Highness, would you prefer to retire for the evening, or shall I escort you to the smaller reception in the blue drawing room?" Kate appreciated Sarah's diplomatic way of offering her an exit strategy. "I think I'll make my way to the blue drawing room, but perhaps we could take the road past the library." Sarah understood immediately. The path to the blue drawing room via the library would take them near the corridor where Camilla and her mysterious companion had disappeared. As they walked, Kate maintained her composed royal demeanor while Sarah remained alert to their surroundings. The library corridor was dimly lit, with only a few wall sconces providing ambient lighting. As they approached, Kate could hear voices coming from behind the partially closed door of a small meeting room, typically used for private consultations. Camilla's voice was clearly audible, though her tone was markedly different from the warm, public persona she had displayed earlier in the evening. The timeline is crucial. Everything must be coordinated precisely, or the entire arrangement will fall apart. The unfamiliar woman's voice responded, "I understand completely. The documentation will be ready by Thursday, and the transfers can be initiated immediately afterward." Kate and Sarah exchanged a meaningful glance. Without speaking, they continued past the door, but both had heard enough to raise serious questions about what kind of business Camilla was conducting during a charity event. As they reached the blue drawing room, Kate's mind was racing with possibilities. The conversation she had overheard didn't sound like typical royal business or charity coordination. The references to documentation and transfers suggested something more complex and potentially concerning. The remainder of the evening passed without incident, but Kate found herself studying Camilla's behavior with new scrutiny. Every smile, every gesture, every conversation seemed to take on additional significance. She began to wonder how much she really knew about her mother-in-law's activities beyond the public royal duties. When the last guests had departed and the family gathered for their traditional post-event debrief, Camilla was effusive in her praise for the evening's success. She spoke enthusiastically about the funds raised and the important connections made, but Kate couldn't shake the feeling that there were layers to the evening that remained hidden. As Kate finally returned to her private quarters, she found herself staring out the window at the palace gardens, illuminated by strategically placed lights. Tomorrow's tea with Camilla suddenly seemed like much more than a routine discussion about state visit protocols. Whatever was happening behind the scenes, Kate had the distinct impression that she was about to become more deeply involved than she had ever anticipated. The following afternoon, Kate made her way through the palace corridors toward Camilla's private sitting room. The Queen's Tower offered a more intimate setting than the formal staterooms, with its comfortable furniture and personal photographs creating an atmosphere of relaxed conversation. Yet Kate felt anything but relaxed as she approached the ornate door. Sarah Morrison had positioned herself strategically in the adjoining corridor, officially reviewing security protocols, but actually maintaining a protective watch over Kate. The previous evening's overheard conversation had prompted Sarah to conduct some preliminary research, and what she had discovered only deepened her concerns. Kate knocked gently and entered to find Camilla arranging delicate china cups on a silver tea service. The queen consort looked every inch the perfect hostess, but Kate noticed subtle signs of tension in her movements. "Kate, wonderful. Please do sit down. I've had cook prepare those lovely cucumber sandwiches you enjoy." Camilla's smile was warm, but her eyes held a calculating quality that Kate had begun to recognize. As they settled into their chairs, Camilla poured tea with practiced elegance. The conversation began innocuously enough, with discussions about upcoming royal engagements and family matters. However, Kate noticed that Camilla seemed to be steering the discussion toward specific topics. "I've been thinking about your role in the upcoming state visit," Camilla said, adding sugar to her tea with deliberate precision. "There are certain protocols that need to be observed, particularly regarding the private meetings with foreign dignitaries." Kate listened carefully, sensing an undercurrent to the conversation. "Of course, I'm always happy to follow established procedures." Camilla leaned forward slightly, her voice taking on a more confidential tone. "Well, that's precisely what I wanted to discuss. Some of these meetings involve sensitive diplomatic matters that require absolute discretion. It would be best if you could perhaps excuse yourself from certain portions of the proceedings." The suggestion caught Kate off guard. In her years as a senior royal, she had never been asked to exclude herself from diplomatic functions. Her presence was typically considered essential to demonstrating the monarchy's united front. "I'm not sure I understand," Kate replied carefully. "Is there a specific security concern I should be aware of?" Camilla's laugh was light, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, nothing like that, darling. It's simply that some of our international partners prefer to conduct certain discussions in smaller groups. You know how particular some diplomats can be about protocol. Kate nodded politely, but her instincts told her there was much more to this request than diplomatic preferences. The timing seemed particularly suspicious, coming so soon after the mysterious conversation she had witnessed the previous evening. "There's something else I wanted to mention," Camilla continued, reaching for a small jewelry box on the side table. "I have something rather special to show you." She opened the box to reveal an exquisite necklace featuring sapphires and diamonds arranged in an intricate pattern. The craftsmanship was extraordinary, clearly the work of a master jeweler, but what struck Kate immediately was that she had never seen this piece before. "It's beautiful," Kate said genuinely. "Is it part of the crown jewels collection?" Camilla's pause was almost imperceptible. "Actually, it's a personal acquisition. A gift from a grateful international partner who appreciated some assistance with a rather delicate matter." The explanation raised immediate questions in Kate's mind. Royal family members were strictly regulated in terms of accepting personal gifts, particularly from foreign sources. All such items had to be declared and evaluated for potential conflicts of interest. "The craftsmanship is remarkable," Kate said, examining the piece more closely. "May I ask which country it's from?" Again, Camilla hesitated slightly. "Oh, it's from a private collector rather than a specific country. Someone who values discretion in their philanthropic endeavors." Kate handed the necklace back, but not before noticing something that made her pulse quicken. Engraved on the inside of the clasp was a small symbol she didn't recognize. But its presence suggested the piece might be more significant than a simple gift. The remainder of their tea was filled with seemingly casual conversation, but Kate found herself analyzing every word. Camilla asked several seemingly innocent questions about Kate's daily schedule, her upcoming engagements, and even her communication with various staff members. When Kate finally excused herself, she felt as though she had been through an elaborate interrogation disguised as a friendly family chat. Camilla's requests about the state visit, combined with the mysterious necklace and probing questions, created a pattern that deeply concerned her. Sarah was waiting in the corridor, maintaining her professional demeanor but clearly alert to Kate's mood. As they walked back toward Kate's apartments, Sarah spoke quietly. "Ma'am, I've completed some research regarding last evening's events. Perhaps we could discuss my findings in your private study?" Once they were safely behind closed doors, Sarah's professional mask slipped slightly, revealing genuine concern. "Your Royal Highness, I've discovered some troubling information about the woman who met with the Queen Consort last night." Kate settled into her desk chair, preparing herself for whatever Sarah had uncovered. "Please tell me everything." Sarah consulted her notes, speaking with the precision of a trained investigator. "The woman's name is Victoria Ashford. She's officially listed as an international cultural liaison, but my contacts suggest her actual role is far more complex. She appears to facilitate private arrangements between wealthy individuals and those in positions of political influence." The implications were staggering. Kate felt her stomach tighten as she began to understand the potential scope of what they were dealing with. "There's more," Sarah continued. "I've identified at least 3 other occasions in recent months when Ms. Ashford has had private meetings with the Queen Consort. Each meeting coincided with significant international events or diplomatic negotiations." Kate thought about the necklace Camilla had shown her with its mysterious engraving and vague provenance. "Sarah, I need to show you something. Can you research jewelry makers who use a specific type of marking?" She sketched the symbol she had seen on the necklace clasp. Sarah examined the drawing carefully, then pulled out her phone to photograph it. "I'll have this analyzed immediately, ma'am. Our art and antiquities specialists should be able to identify its origin." As evening approached, Kate found herself staring out at the palace gardens once again, but this time her mind was focused on the growing evidence that something significant was happening behind the scenes of royal life. The conversation with Camilla had revealed layers of complexity she had never suspected, and the research Sarah was conducting suggested connections that could have serious implications for the monarchy. The most troubling aspect was the realization that Camilla's request to exclude her from certain diplomatic meetings might be part of a larger pattern of concealment. If the queen consort was indeed involved in unauthorized private arrangements with international figures, the potential for scandal was enormous. Kate realized she was standing at a crossroads. She could choose to ignore what she had observed and maintain the comfortable fiction that everything was as it seemed, or she could pursue the truth regardless of where it might lead. The decision would determine not just her own role within the royal family, but potentially the future of the monarchy itself. 3 days later, Kate found herself in an unexpected position. Prince William had been called away on urgent Commonwealth business, leaving her to handle the preliminary arrangements for the state visit alone. It was exactly the kind of situation that would normally require close coordination with Camilla. But Kate now approached these interactions with heightened awareness. Sarah had returned with disturbing news about the symbol from the necklace clasp. It belonged to an exclusive Swiss jewelry house known for creating pieces that served as more than mere ornaments. According to Sarah's contacts, the firm specialized in items that functioned as discreet signals within certain international circles. The symbol indicates membership in what they call a facilitation network, Sarah explained during their private morning briefing. Essentially, it identifies the wearer as someone who can arrange access to influential figures for the right price. Kate felt a chill run down her spine. The implications were staggering, suggesting that Camilla might be using her royal position to broker access for financial gain. Such activities would not only be ethically questionable but could potentially constitute criminal behavior. That afternoon, Kate was reviewing seating charts for the upcoming state dinner when her private secretary announced an unexpected visitor. Lord Pemberton, the businessman she had observed in deep conversation with Camilla at the charity gala, was requesting a brief audience. Kate's first instinct was to decline, but her curiosity about his connection to Camilla overrode her caution. She agreed to see him in the formal reception room, ensuring that Sarah would be present and that their conversation would be properly documented. Lord Pemberton entered with the confident bearing of someone accustomed to dealing with powerful people. He was impeccably dressed and carried himself with the polish of a successful international businessman. But Kate detected something calculating in his demeanor. "Your Royal Highness, thank you for seeing me on such short notice," he began, settling into the offered chair with practiced ease. "I wanted to discuss some potential opportunities for collaboration between the Crown and my international development projects." Kate maintained her composed royal manner while studying his body language. "I'm always interested in hearing about legitimate charitable endeavors, Lord Pemberton." He smiled at her emphasis on the word legitimate, but his expression revealed that he had caught the subtle message. "Of course. I've been working with various European partners on infrastructure projects in developing nations. The Queen Consort has been most helpful in providing introductions to key decision-makers." Kate felt her pulse quicken. This was exactly the kind of arrangement that Sarah's research had suggested might be happening. "That's wonderful that Her Majesty has been able to facilitate productive connections." Lord Pemberton leaned forward slightly, his voice taking on a more confidential tone. "Indeed, in fact, she mentioned that you might be interested in taking a more active role in these initiatives. There are significant opportunities for someone with your international profile to make a real difference." The proposition was clearly a test. Kate realized that Lord Pemberton was trying to determine whether she was aware of Camilla's activities and whether she might be willing to participate in similar arrangements. "I appreciate your confidence in my abilities," Kate replied carefully. "However, I would need to understand the exact nature of any involvement before making commitments. The royal family must maintain strict standards regarding our charitable and diplomatic activities." Something flickered in Lord Pemberton's eyes, and Kate sensed that her response had provided him with the information he was seeking. He spent the next few minutes outlining vague development projects and potential partnerships, but Kate could tell that the real purpose of his visit had already been accomplished after he departed. Kate immediately called for Sarah, They needed to discuss the implications of what had just occurred, particularly the suggestion that Camilla had been discussing Kate's potential involvement with outside parties. "Ma'am, this confirms our worst fears," Sarah said after hearing Kate's account of the meeting. "Lord Pemberton was clearly testing to see if you were already part of whatever network the Queen Consort has established." Kate paced to the window, looking out at the palace grounds where tourists and reporters maintained their constant vigil. The irony wasn't lost on her that while the media speculated about trivial royal matters, a potentially serious situation was developing completely unnoticed. "Sarah, I need you to be completely honest with me. Based on your research and what we've observed, what do you think is actually happening?" Sarah took a moment to consider her response carefully. "I believe the Queen Consort has been using her position to facilitate access between wealthy international figures and British government officials or other influential individuals. The payments would likely be disguised as charitable donations or business investments, making them difficult to trace." The analysis aligned with Kate's own growing suspicions, but hearing it stated so directly was still shocking. "And you think Lord Pemberton was trying to recruit me to participate?" "Almost certainly. Having the Princess of Wales involved would dramatically increase the value and legitimacy of their network. Your international reputation and media profile would make you an invaluable asset." Kate felt a mixture of anger and determination. The thought that anyone would attempt to exploit her position for personal gain was infuriating, but the realization that it might involve Camilla made the situation exponentially more complex. That evening, Kate received an unexpected phone call from Camilla, who sounded unusually cheerful and insistent about arranging another meeting. "Kate, darling, I've had the most wonderful idea about your role in next week's events. Could we possibly meet tomorrow morning? I have something quite exciting to discuss." The timing was suspicious, coming so soon after Lord Pemberton's visit. Kate agreed to the meeting but immediately began planning how to handle what she suspected would be an attempt to draw her deeper into whatever scheme was being orchestrated. After ending the call, Kate sat in her study considering the impossible position she found herself in. As a member of the royal family, she had obligations to protect the institution of the monarchy. As Prince William's wife, she had responsibilities to her husband and their children. As a person with her own moral standards, she felt compelled to prevent the exploitation of royal privilege for personal gain. The most challenging aspect was that any action she took could have devastating consequences for the royal family's reputation and stability. If her suspicions proved correct and the situation became public, the scandal could seriously damage the monarchy's standing with the British people and international community. Yet, Kate also recognized that ignoring the situation would make her complicit in whatever was happening. The evidence was mounting that serious improprieties were occurring, and her position gave her both the opportunity and responsibility to address them. As she prepared for bed that night, Kate made a decision that would fundamentally alter her role within the royal family. She would not allow herself to be drawn into any questionable activities, and she would take whatever steps were necessary to protect the integrity of the monarchy, even if it meant confronting Camilla directly about her suspicions. The next morning's meeting would be crucial in determining how the situation would unfold. Kate steeled herself for what promised to be one of the most difficult conversations of her royal career. The next morning arrived with unseasonably heavy clouds hanging over London, casting the palace in an ominous gray light. Kate dressed carefully for her meeting with Camilla, choosing a structured navy suit that conveyed both professionalism and authority. She needed every advantage she could muster for what promised to be a crucial confrontation. Sarah had spent the early hours conducting additional research and had uncovered information that made the situation even more serious than they had initially suspected. Before Kate left for her meeting, Sarah briefed her on the latest developments. "Ma'am, my contacts in financial intelligence have identified suspicious patterns in several charitable organizations associated with the Queen Consort," Sarah reported, her voice tense with concern. "Large donations are being made by international sources, but the money doesn't appear to be reaching the stated charitable purposes. Kate felt her stomach clench. Money laundering through charitable organizations was a serious criminal offense, one that could potentially implicate the entire royal family if not addressed immediately. "How confident are your sources about this information?" Kate asked. "Very confident, ma'am. The patterns are consistent and involve significant sums. We're talking about millions of pounds that appear to be moving through these organizations without proper documentation or legitimate charitable outcomes." Armed with this knowledge, Kate made her way to Camilla's private office with a mixture of determination and apprehension. She had decided to confront Camilla directly, hoping that a frank conversation might resolve the situation. Without requiring more drastic measures, Camilla's office was elegantly appointed, with expensive furnishings and fresh flowers that created an atmosphere of refined comfort. However, Kate noticed details she had previously overlooked: the latest model computer, multiple high-end phones, and a sophisticated filing system that seemed far more complex than typical royal correspondence would require. "Kate, you look lovely as always," Camilla greeted her warmly. But Kate detected a hint of nervousness beneath the polished exterior. "Please sit down. I have some truly exciting proposals to discuss with you." Instead of taking the offered seat, Kate remained standing, using her height advantage to establish a more authoritative presence. "Camilla, before we discuss any new proposals, I think we need to address some concerns I have about your recent activities." Camilla's smile faltered slightly, but she maintained her composure. "I'm not sure what you mean, dear. What activities are you referring to?" Kate had rehearsed this moment, knowing that her approach would determine the outcome of the entire situation. "I'm referring to your meetings with individuals like Victoria Ashford and Lord Pemberton, and the apparent use of royal connections for unauthorized private arrangements." The change in Camilla's demeanor was immediate and dramatic. The warm, motherly facade dropped away, revealing a calculating intelligence that Kate had only glimpsed in brief moments before. "I see," Camilla said slowly, moving to her desk and closing a file that had been open. "And what exactly do you think you know about my activities?" Kate maintained her steady gaze, refusing to be intimidated. "I know that you've been facilitating access between wealthy international figures and British officials. I know about the mysterious necklace and what its symbolism represents. And I know that charitable organizations associated with your name are receiving large donations that aren't reaching their stated purposes." Camilla was silent for a long moment, clearly calculating her response. When she finally spoke, her voice had lost all pretense of warmth. "Kate, you're playing with forces you don't understand. The monarchy requires funding and support that goes far beyond what Parliament provides. The arrangements I've made ensure the long-term stability and influence of our institution." The admission was more direct than Kate had expected. "Are you seriously suggesting that criminal activity is justified to support the monarchy?" Camilla's laugh was cold and humorless. "Criminal activity? Kate, you're being naive. Everything I do operates within legal gray areas that give us plausible deniability. The important thing is results, and my efforts have secured significant resources and international support for our family." Kate realized that Camilla truly believed her actions were justified, which made the situation even more dangerous. Someone who had convinced themselves that illegal activities were acceptable for a greater good was unlikely to be deterred by appeals to morality or legal concerns. "Camilla, I cannot and will not allow these activities to continue. The damage to the monarchy, if this becomes public, would be catastrophic." Camilla moved closer, her voice becoming more aggressive. "And what exactly do you plan to do about it? You have no proof of anything illegal, just suspicions and circumstantial evidence. Meanwhile, I have years of carefully documented charitable work and international diplomacy that any investigation would have to acknowledge." Kate realized that Camilla had anticipated this confrontation and had prepared defenses. However, Kate also recognized that Camilla was revealing more about her operations than she might have intended. "Furthermore," Camilla continued, I should point out that your own position in this family depends entirely on William's goodwill and public approval. It would be unfortunate if circumstances arose that called your judgment or loyalty into question. The threat was unmistakable, but Kate had expected it. Are you threatening me? Camilla's smile returned, but it was predatory rather than warm. I'm simply reminding you of the realities of royal life. We all have roles to play, and it's important that we play them correctly. Kate realized that the conversation had revealed the true extent of Camilla's activities and her willingness to protect them through intimidation. Any hope of resolving the situation through private discussion had evaporated. I think this conversation is over, Kate said firmly. But I want you to understand that I will not participate in any activities that compromise the integrity of the monarchy, and I will not remain silent if those activities continue. Camilla's expression hardened. Kate, you're making a very serious mistake. The network I've built has significant resources and influence. It would be wise to reconsider your position before taking any actions you might regret. As Kate left Camilla's office, she understood that she had crossed a line from which there was no return. The confrontation had confirmed her worst suspicions and revealed that Camilla was not only involved in questionable activities, but was prepared to use threats to protect them. Sarah was waiting in the corridor, maintaining her professional demeanor but clearly alert to the tension in Kate's posture as she emerged from the meeting. Ma'am, based on your expression, I assume the conversation didn't go as hoped? Kate kept her voice low as they walked toward her private apartments. Sarah, we need to implement emergency protocols. The situation is far more serious than we realized, and I believe we may be dealing with organized criminal activity operating from within the royal household. The gravity of the situation was now fully apparent. Kate had not only uncovered potential criminal behavior, but had also made herself a target by confronting Camilla directly. The next steps would require careful planning and absolute discretion. As the stakes had just escalated dramatically. As they reached the safety of Kate's private study, both women understood that they were now involved in a situation that could determine the future of the British monarchy itself. The next 48 hours transformed into a carefully orchestrated investigation that required Kate and Sarah to operate with unprecedented secrecy. Sarah had contacted her most trusted colleagues in royal protection and financial crimes, creating a small team of investigators who could work without alerting Camilla's potential allies within the palace. Kate found herself learning about aspects of royal security she had never imagined existed. Sarah explained that certain protection officers were trained to identify and investigate internal threats to the monarchy, recognizing that danger could come from within the institution as well as from external sources. The key is maintaining absolute operational security, Sarah explained during one of their private briefings. We have to assume that the Queen Consort has supporters or informants throughout the palace staff, so our investigation must involve only those individuals whose loyalty is unquestionable. The investigation quickly revealed the sophisticated nature of Camilla's operation. Financial records showed a complex network of shell companies and charitable organizations that appeared designed to obscure the movement of large sums of money. International wire transfers were disguised as donations to causes that existed primarily on paper. Detective Chief Inspector Marcus Webb, Sarah's contact in financial crimes, joined their team after reviewing the preliminary evidence. His expertise in high-level fraud investigations proved invaluable in understanding the scope of what they were dealing with. This operation shows signs of professional planning, Webb explained during a secure meeting in Kate's private study. The financial structures are too sophisticated for an amateur. The Queen Consort either has significant criminal experience or is working with individuals who do. Kate felt a chill at the implications. Are you suggesting this might involve organized crime? Webb nodded grimly. The patterns we're seeing are consistent with money laundering operations run by international criminal networks. The use of charitable organizations and royal connections provides perfect cover for moving illicit funds. The most disturbing discovery came when they analyzed Camilla's international contacts. Several of the individuals she had been meeting with were connected to businesses, under investigation by various European authorities for fraud, tax evasion, and money laundering. Meanwhile, Kate had to maintain her normal royal duties while conducting the investigation, a challenge that required exceptional acting skills. She attended official events, participated in charitable activities, and interacted with Camilla in public settings, all while knowing the true nature of what was occurring behind the scenes. During one particularly tense family dinner, Camilla made several pointed comments about loyalty and the importance of family members supporting each other. Her words carried clear undertones directed at Kate, but the public setting prevented any direct confrontation. "Family unity is so essential in our position," Camilla said, her gaze fixed on Kate. "When family members work against each other, it weakens the entire institution." King Charles, unaware of the undercurrents in the conversation, nodded approvingly. "Absolutely right, my dear. We must always present a united front to the public." Kate maintained her composure throughout the meal, but the experience reinforced her understanding that Camilla was monitoring her activities and looking for signs that the investigation was continuing. The breakthrough came when Sarah's team identified a critical meeting, scheduled for the following week. Victoria Ashford was returning to London for what appeared to be a major financial transaction, based on coded communications they had intercepted. "This could be our opportunity to gather definitive evidence," Webb explained. "If we can document the actual exchange of money or compromising information, we'll have grounds for formal criminal charges." However, the meeting was scheduled to take place during the state visit, when security around the royal family would be at maximum levels. Any surveillance operation would need to be carefully coordinated to avoid interfering with legitimate security protocols. Kate realized that her position as Princess of Wales might actually provide the perfect cover for gathering evidence. Her official duties during the state visit would give her legitimate reasons to be in areas of the palace where the meeting might occur. "I can modify my schedule to ensure I'm positioned where we need surveillance," Kate proposed. "My presence won't raise suspicions because I'm supposed to be involved in the state visit activities." Sarah initially objected to putting Kate at risk, but Webb pointed out that they might not get another opportunity to gather evidence while maintaining the secrecy necessary to protect the investigation. As they planned the surveillance operation, Kate received an unexpected call from Prince William, who was still traveling on Commonwealth business. His voice carried concern that suggested he might be aware that something unusual was happening. "Kate, I've been hearing some odd reports from palace staff. Is everything all right there?" Kate had to make a split-second decision about how much to reveal. William's absence had actually been advantageous for the investigation, allowing her to act without having to explain her activities to him. However, his return was imminent, and she would need his support for whatever actions they decided to take. "William, when you return, we need to have a very serious and private conversation. There are some matters involving the family that require immediate attention." The gravity in her tone clearly communicated to William that this was not a routine royal issue. "I'll be back tomorrow morning. Can you arrange for us to meet privately as soon as I arrive?" After ending the call, Kate realized that the investigation was approaching a critical phase. Within the next few days, they would either gather enough evidence to formally address Camilla's activities, or they would have to abandon the effort and accept the risks of allowing the situation to continue. That evening, as Kate prepared for what might be the most challenging day of her royal career, she reflected on how dramatically her understanding of royal life had changed. She had entered the monarchy believing in its fundamental integrity and moral authority. Now she faced the possibility that corruption existed at the highest levels of the institution she had sworn to serve. The irony was not lost on her that in trying to protect the monarchy from internal threats, she might be forced to take actions that could damage it in ways that external critics never could. The next 24 hours would determine not only the outcome of their investigation, but the future direction of her own role within the royal family. As she looked out at the palace, grounds one more time. Kate steeled herself for the confrontation that she now knew was inevitable. The evidence they had gathered would soon force a reckoning that would test the very foundations of the modern British monarchy. The day of reckoning arrived with the pageantry and precision that characterized all major royal events. The state visit was proceeding flawlessly on the surface, with visiting dignitaries, media coverage, and ceremonial protocols creating the perfect distraction for the covert operation taking place behind the scenes. Prince William had returned early that morning, and Kate's private briefing with him had been both shocking and galvanizing. His initial disbelief had quickly transformed into steely determination when presented with the evidence Sarah's team had compiled. "My God, Kate," he had said after reviewing the financial documents. "If even half of this is true, the damage to the crown could be irreversible." William's support proved crucial for the final phase of their operation. His authority as heir to the throne gave their investigation official legitimacy and provided cover for the surveillance they needed to conduct. The critical moment arrived during the state dinner's cocktail reception. According to intercepted communications, Camilla's meeting with Victoria Ashford was scheduled to take place in the Red Drawing Room during the formal dinner. When the room would normally be empty and UNMONITORED. Kate positioned herself strategically in the adjoining corridor, officially greeting late-arriving guests but actually maintaining surveillance on the target area. Sarah and her team had installed discreet recording equipment earlier that day, disguised as routine security upgrades for the state visit. At precisely 9:15, as the formal dinner was beginning in the main banquet hall, Camilla excused herself from the head table, citing a minor diplomatic emergency that required her immediate attention. 5 minutes later, Victoria Ashford appeared in the corridor, moving with the purposeful stride Kate had observed at their first encounter. The recording equipment captured everything that followed. Camilla's voice was clear and incriminating as she discussed specific financial transfers and provided detailed information about upcoming government decisions that her contacts could exploit for profit. "The infrastructure legislation will pass next month." Camilla's voice came through clearly on Sarah's earpiece. "Your clients should position their investments accordingly. The guaranteed contracts we discussed will be worth approximately £50 million. Victoria Ashford's response was equally damaging. "The usual commission structure applies? 20% to your accounts in Switzerland with the remaining funds distributed as we discussed?" Kate felt her heart racing as she listened to the conversation that was destroying any remaining doubt about Camilla's criminal activities. This was not gray area influence peddling but clear evidence of corruption, involving government contracts and international money laundering. The meeting continued for nearly 20 minutes, with Camilla providing detailed information about confidential government decisions and accepting what was clearly a substantial bribe disguised as a charitable donation. The recordings captured not only the current transaction but references to previous similar arrangements, dating back several years. When the meeting concluded, Kate had to summon all her royal training to maintain her composure as Camilla returned to the state dinner. The Queen Consort showed no signs of stress or concern, smoothly resuming her official duties as if nothing significant had occurred. The remainder of the evening passed in a surreal atmosphere where Kate participated in formal diplomatic ceremonies while knowing that evidence of serious criminal activity was being analyzed by investigators in a secure room elsewhere in the palace. After the last guests had departed, William, Kate, and Sarah met with Detective Chief Inspector Webb to review the recordings and plan their next steps. The evidence was overwhelming and clearly sufficient for criminal charges, but the implications for the monarchy required careful consideration. The recordings provide clear evidence of bribery, money laundering, and abuse of official position, Webb confirmed. "We have grounds for immediate arrest, but the political ramifications of arresting the Queen Consort require coordination with the highest levels of government." William faced the most difficult decision of his life. As heir to the throne, He had to balance his duty to uphold the law with his responsibility to protect the institution of the monarchy. The scandal of arresting Camilla would be devastating, but allowing criminal activity to continue was unacceptable. What are our options for minimizing the damage to the crown? William asked. Webb had clearly anticipated this question. We could potentially negotiate a private resolution where the Queen Consort agrees to cease all illegal activities, make full financial restitution, and submit to ongoing monitoring in exchange for avoiding public prosecution. Kate shook her head firmly. That's not acceptable. If we cover this up, we become complicit in the corruption. The monarchy's credibility depends on demonstrating that no one is above the law, even members of the royal family. William studied his wife's determined expression and realized she was right. The short-term damage of addressing the situation openly would be less harmful than the long-term corruption of the institution's moral authority. The confrontation with Camilla took place the following morning in the king's private study. Charles had been briefed overnight and was struggling to process the evidence against his wife. When Camilla was presented with the recordings and financial documentation, her reaction revealed the calculating intelligence Kate had glimpsed during their previous confrontation. You have no idea what you've done, Camilla said coldly, abandoning any pretense of innocence. The arrangements I made were essential for maintaining British influence in an increasingly complex international environment. Charles looked devastated as he listened to his wife's attempts to justify criminal behavior. Camilla, how could you use our position for personal gain? Personal gain? Camilla's voice rose with indignation. Everything I did was to strengthen our position and secure resources that Parliament would never provide. The monarchy needs money and influence to survive in the modern world. William stepped forward, his voice carrying the authority of his future kingship. Whatever your motivations, you violated both the law and your oath to serve the crown. The damage you've caused to our institutions' reputation may take decades to repair. The final resolution required delicate negotiations with government authorities, international partners, and media representatives. Camilla agreed to abdicate her role as queen consort and cooperate fully with criminal investigations in exchange for reduced charges and sentencing. The public announcement was carefully crafted to emphasize the monarchy's commitment to transparency and accountability, while minimizing details that could compromise ongoing international relationships. Camilla's departure was presented as a mutual decision, based on personal differences about the future direction of royal duties. In the months that followed, Kate found herself taking on expanded responsibilities within the royal family. The Crises had demonstrated her commitment to institutional integrity and established her as a trusted leader within the monarchy. Sarah Morrison was promoted to head of Royal Protection Services, her exceptional work during the investigation earning recognition at the highest levels of security services. The enhanced security protocols developed during their covert operation became permanent features of royal protection. The monarchy emerged from the crisis with its fundamental integrity intact, but forever changed by the recognition that threats to the institution could come from within as well as from external sources. Kate's decisive action in confronting corruption had ultimately strengthened the crown's moral authority and demonstrated the institution's commitment to accountability. As Kate stood on the palace balcony months later, watching tourists and supporters gather in the courtyard below, she reflected on the difficult journey that had brought them to this point. The monarchy had survived its internal crisis, but the experience had taught her that protecting the institution required constant vigilance and the courage to confront uncomfortable truths, regardless of their source.